Welcome to the PNW Peak Baggers podcast, where you get to hear from members of our community and learn more about climbing in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Bill Goodgen. I am your host. I'm the founder of PNW Peak Baggers. I'm excited. Today's guest is Kelly Selzler. She's been in the group for a couple of years and very active member. We all like watching her post up and see her trip reports and all of the beta that she's been sharing. She's a very active climber. So I think a lot of folks that are members of the group will be excited to watch and or listen to this podcast. So Kelly, surprisingly, she's actually from a small town in Ohio, a flatlander. Yeah. So
yes.
She went to college in Pittsburgh. She moved to Washington State in 2001, and she loves it here. She works as a personal trainer and an athletic trainer at a small personal training studio in Lakewood. She has two daughters, ages 8 and 16. And she says that she's found motherhood, although hard at times, to be the most rewarding things and one of the most rewarding things in her life, besides her obvious peak bagging, which is why she's on our episode today. Her obsession with peak bagging, I probably would say. She loves nature photography. She's had gallery shows as well, and has had her work hung in many homes and businesses. And she loves being in the yard, working in the yard and gardening to her heart's content. So Kelly, welcome. We're glad to have you here. How's it going?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Going great.
Yeah, you're in your gear locker, it looks like.
Yes.
So what do you got?
I've got my camera gear here. I've got all of the climbing gear, all that stuff behind me.
Yeah. So I started with the introduction that you're a flatlander in Ohio, right? So
yes.
Let's start there. How'd you make it out to the Pacific Northwest? It's always an interesting journey. I'm a Midwest guy myself, grew up in Kansas City.
Okay.
Made it out to the Pacific Northwest. Fortunately, before I got here, I saw a couple of mountains, but not a lot. So
yeah.
Hiking and all these crazy peak bagger stories were all new to me. So what happened? How'd you get out to the PNW?
When I was 17, my dad and I came out to Washington for a trip in the mountains. And when I was younger too, he and I would just take trips out west and go hiking and hit the mountains. So we came out here when I was 17, and I saw Mount Rainier and I flipped out. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, of course.
What in the world?
One of the few days that the mountain was out.
It was actually out. It was summer, so it was sunny. And I fell in love with it out here. We went to Seattle, and the water was there, the Olympics, and I was just like, I have to move there. And so when I graduated from college in 2001, I only applied for jobs out here in Washington and Oregon, and was able to get a job out this way. So I packed
was that
up my
the same thing you're doing now? Was that being a physical trainer or an athletic trainer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I never looked back. I think I've only gone to Ohio a couple times since then, just to visit family. Other than that.
Yeah. So when you got out here in 2001, did you immediately just jump right in and start hiking and getting into climbing, or did it take you a little while?
Actually, I did. I met up with somebody and climbed Mount Si, including Haystack, as my first hike. And then did some hiking around Mount Rainier, but more just hiking. I didn't really get into peak bagging. Just really over the last few years.
Yeah.
But I've hit, I think, every trail almost in Mount Rainier National Park.
Yeah. So when you did that first trip up Mount Si and up the Haystack, was that a surprise for you? Where you're like, whoa, this is not what I was thinking it was going to be like? Or were you pretty mentally prepared? And I mean, obviously you're in great shape. So the physical side is not what I'm asking the question about. It's more just being out in the mountains. And Haystack, for some people, it takes quite a while before they even try it.
Right. Yeah. Well, when those trips that my dad and I took out west and the hikes we did, I have no idea where we did any of this, but we did a lot of scrambling. I remember my dad telling me, okay, put your hand here, put your foot here. He'd hold my foot. So I know we did scramble and I loved it. And so for me, going haystack wasn't really a big deal at all.
Yep.
I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So
what did he have a background in climbing himself, or he was just a hiker and liked to come out west?
yeah, just kind of more hiking. He's always been super outdoorsy. I have his brother lives in Alaska, and so we've made a lot of trips to Alaska. And so he's always been down for doing anything
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great to have that positive influence and somebody that you look up to and enjoy being with. It kind of sets the tone for you early on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was next after Mount Si? Then what you all of a sudden you're invigorated, you're on the top of the haystack, you're like, man, this is great. Now I gotta go do something else. So what was that something else after that?
After that, like I said, it took me a while to really get into, like actually climbing up peaks. I would just more kind of go on trails. My husband and I kind of got into it, but then we ended up having our first child, and then things kind of, I didn't get out as much, and
it gets a little harder.
So but eventually when she was like 5-6 years old, she started coming with us, and this girl was doing like 15-mile hikes with us at like 5-6 years old. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. She hates nature now, so I think we kind of ruined her. But yeah, she says as long as she can wear a skirt, that she'll go. So yeah,
that's
so
pretty
great.
funny. So when she was younger, before that, were you taking her on like a date on a pack and carrying her, or was it until she started walking and hiking herself that she started to go?
We kind of waited until she could start going herself.
Yeah.
And then we just got her out there, and yeah. So
what about like camping and backpacking? Was that part of your interest also, or was it always just kind of hiking and then transitioned into the peak bagging?
No, not a lot of camping. My dad and I did some when I was younger. But no, not much. I don't like the heavy packs, and I still don't like the heavy packs. And I will do anything car to car if I can.
Go fast and light.
Exactly. So so pretty much everything was just day trips. So yeah.
So I've asked this question of I think just about everybody that I've had on the PNW Peak Baggers podcast so far. So what's your definition of a peak bagger?
Oh gosh. Somebody who's obsessed and crazy. Yeah, I mean, I just think of it as, especially doing it a lot more the last few years is I probably following a list, right? Like you have your list of peaks, which I've tried to avoid, because then I feel like I get too obsessed with it. But then I started the Bulgers, and now I'm just kind of like, okay, now I'm on this journey. I finally decided kind of the end of last season that, okay, I've done enough of these Bulgers. I think I'll just go for it. So I'm on that journey right now. Was hoping to finish this season, but did not. It's hard balancing it when you have a family, you work full time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trying to get out there. And a lot of the ones that I have left are multi-day journeys that it's so hard to fit into my schedule. And I had actually sat down with my girls and said at the beginning of the season this spring, and said, okay, guys, I really want to try to finish this. I think at the time I had maybe 45 left this season. What do you guys think? Like, I won't be around as much. And between my oldest daughter super upset and my youngest daughter crying, I was like, okay, no. I definitely need to see what my priorities are. And like, okay, the mountains are going to be there. So hopefully next season I'll be able to finish those. So
yeah, and some of those, depending on your comfort level, are not they're not best to be done as solo. I mean, certainly you can,
Sure.
lots of people do.
Sure. Yeah.
That probably plays into your equation as well, wanting to have somebody and working around their schedule, sometimes forces you into weekends and times that maybe aren't as convenient for
Oh
family.
yeah, it's so hard trying to coordinate everything, and that's a lot of times, like I do a lot of my trips solo, which I know isn't always the best idea, but
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second.
yeah.
It's, people have their opinions and they are what they are. But was that something that you struggled with at first, or was that just really natural for you? Hey, I like doing things solo. I'm comfortable doing solo, and it just progressed. Or did you have to work towards that? And then, what was the conversation with your family? How does that go?
Well, I think because I had a couple friends that I would go with regularly, and there were times that come up that okay, that those friends aren't available, and I still wanted to get out. I'm like, okay, well, I've got to do this. And I remember my very first solo was Mount Si, and I was so nervous. It's so funny to look back at that. And I just kind of gradually started doing more and more solo, and I think, gosh, I think now I've done 40 of the Bulgers solo.
Oh, wow.
And I love the solitude. Now don't get me wrong, I love going out with friends. It's fun. It's a totally different atmosphere, obviously, when you're by yourself versus with friends. Totally different experience. But I just like the solitude. I like to kind of I can do my own pace. I can stop when I want. I do a lot of photography. So I don't feel like I'm holding somebody up if I want to stop and do some photography. So and to me, it's a sense of accomplishment. If I did a hard scramble by myself, I feel like I've accomplished something. So, and route finding on my own and things like that.
Yeah. How did you, so a couple of questions. One, you were talking about going at your own pace. You move at a fast pace. I mean, I know because I've seen some of the times that you put up on some of those. So I don't think you're slowing anybody down by taking pictures. It's probably
right.
It's probably harder to find people who can move at the same pace with you, which is, it is what it is. Like that happens. That's a reality. And we talk about this in a group a lot. People will post up that they're looking for partners, and it's hard for people to select partners that they don't know, because they don't know that's one, they don't know what pace they're moving at. Two, they don't know their skill level, and they don't know about the compatibility. Like, am I just going to enjoy hanging out with this person for hours and hours and hours? Some people are talkers and some are not, and that can be enough to ruin a trip for people. Did you find any of that too, where it was just, it's easier to go by yourself?
Yes. And I think, yes, exactly. That's all. Exactly. It's just a lot easier. It's, I can start when I want. I can, my goal sometimes is, okay, I want to try to get back to the car before dark, and I just have these things in my head, different goals in mind. And so, yeah, overall, it's just easier. And a lot of times I plan super, super last minute. And it could be literally as I'm going to bed, I'm like, okay, where am I going to go tomorrow? And it's hard as planning so last minute than trying to find somebody. So
yeah, especially if you're going to get up super early. It's, can't call somebody at 9 o'clock and say, I am rolling at 3:30. Can I pick you up on the side of the highway? And we're heading to the North Cascades. So the other question I was thinking about was the route finding skills. Where you, how have you improved upon that and developed that, as the climbing gets more complicated and challenging for you? Have you taken any classes? What have you done to help improve in that area, or do you feel like you're just naturally good at it?
Well, I have taken like Mark Smiley has some pretty good courses that I've taken, not necessarily on route finding itself, but just in general. I really liked his courses. And I use Gaia. That's my only thing I use as far as
Okay.
route finding goes, and I'll download tracks. And I found, and I, for some reason too, I feel like I just kind of have this natural instinct as to where to go. I don't know why, but um, I don't usually have too much of an issue. Sometimes I'll actually, just a few weeks ago, I did one, I didn't even have tracks. I just went. And so, if it's a more scrambly technical route, I definitely, it's a more of a challenge, of course, and I'll take my time and try to figure out exactly, okay, where am I supposed to be going here? But, and it makes me nervous. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that it's just, that it's easy. When I'm walking on those summit blocks, it can be a little nerve wracking by yourself and trying to figure out where to go and to get there, to get up and down safely.
Yeah.
But I just keep that in mind. I keep in mind, take your time, there's no rush, and just make sure you get down safely. So
Do you so you mentioned Gaia and you
Mhm.
also download tracks. Where do you just go to people directly and that you who are comfortable and and ask them, or do you use like peakbagger.com to get GPX tracks, or where do you get your beta from? I mean, obviously you get stuff from the PNW Peak Baggers Facebook group also, but
Right, yeah, the majority I'll go on the peakbagger.com website. That's where I
okay.
get most of them. I will ask people here and there too for some tracks, but yeah, for the most part I just go on Peakbagger, which I need to post on that on that more and share my information. I'm so bad. I think I've posted on there once. I need to
Yeah.
share my information, but yeah.
So you talked about lists, you talked about the Bulgers. Is that the list you're most actively working now and pursuing, or are there others in there that you're also trying to knock out at the same time?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of my goal right now. I just don't want to get too bogged down in lists because I want to just enjoy it more. I feel like it gets me stressed out and I get obsessed with it. And I don't want that. I want to be able to go out and just enjoy whatever peak I'm going for rather than, okay, just check this one off, check this one off. Yeah, so
So I know I should probably not ask this of everybody because it's not about the number of peaks that people have climbed, but everybody always wants to know, like, do you have like a full list? You said you don't post on Peak Bagger your trips, but do you know your count? Do you know how many unique peaks you've climbed?
oh gosh, I have no idea.
Oh, that's great.
Honestly, I like that I don't know.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I did though, just out of curiosity, this is the first time I've done this so far this season. I'm like, I'm gonna go back and just look at how many peaks I've done since this year, January, but not counting like multiple mailboxes or things like that. And I was at 110, and I told my daughter, and she's like, well, that's not very much.
Yeah,
I mean,
isn't that great? Puts you in your
right,
place. You feel like you're
right.
accomplished and just like, that's
Yeah,
nothing.
she's like, that's not. I'm like, okay, well.
That's great.
So yeah, but yeah, I don't, all the stats and all that kind of stuff, just I try to just kind of stay away from that and just kind of enjoy just getting on whatever peaks I can. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't.
yeah.
I don't keep track of any. I keep track of only new peaks. That's the only thing I ever keep a list of is anything new that I've done. I don't keep track of my vert per year, or any of that.
Right, yeah.
And so I would probably answer the same. I'd be like, and for years I never kept track of anything. So I don't even know, like I couldn't go back and recreate anything beyond 4 or 5 years. Cause that's the only time I started, tracking anything was like 2018. So,
Right,
um,
right.
yeah. So do you have, Kelly, do you have any, most memorable trips, good, bad, that sort of stand out in your mind? Like, wow, that was one for the books, so to
Oh
speak.
man. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think one that stands out for me as far as a solo one was doing Mount Shasta. Um, it 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 was just I had gone down and tried it the prior year and didn't make it because of high avalanche risk. So came back the next year, and I don't know, I was just scared. I had no idea what to expect because we'd only gotten to a certain point, and I got up on the mountain and it was just windy. It was awful and it was freezing. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it again. But I ended up making it, and it was absolutely phenomenal. It was beautiful. You know, I cried at the summit, you know, one of those things.
That's
And there
great.
weren't many people out. I maybe saw 3 people that day.
What route did you go?
Oh
Up through,
gosh.
up through Red Rocks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just, so yeah, that was very memorable. Some other climbs with partners. The first time I did, well, I've only done Rainier once. And did it via the Couts. So that was just really cool to be able to go up that route, and it was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then I had done Hood before and told myself I was never going to do Hood again. I had been so scared. The conditions up the pearly gates that day were awful, and I'm just like, I'm never going back up there. But then my buddy Andrew talked me into doing it the next year, and we went up the Reed Head Wall, and it was absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. So, you know, yeah, I've definitely have had some amazing experiences out there.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned Shasta. The thing that shocked me about Shasta also was how cold it was. I was freezing when we got to like the fall summit and we're just about ready to get to the top. And my hands had never been that cold, like not on Rainier, not on Hood, not on anywhere, you know, in the Cascades. And I was just blown away how cold I was. And I was miserable, like absolutely miserable.
Yes. Oh yeah. It gets really cold up there.
Yeah, it was surprising. It's definitely a cool peak to climb though, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What about one where you're like, I'm never, you said Hood, you didn't ever want to do Hood again, but you did it. Is there another one where you're like, I'm not going back. I did it. I've done it. I don't have any desire to head back there.
I would say yes, but the thing is, a lot of it is based on conditions at the time, right? So maybe I did a peak in the winter and it was awful, but go back in the summer, it's a completely different experience. So I don't know. I mean, I would say one that comes to mind is Jack. Like I just did Jack this summer, but in a year from now, I'll forget how maybe awful it was.
Right.
And go back and do it again. So I've said that's a one and done many times, but I think I'd probably go back and repeat a lot of them. So
yeah. So what you mentioned the solitude. You really like solitude. What else is it for you? What do you like most about being in the mountains? Why do you keep going back and putting yourself through all of that effort and sometimes not so great days?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is just this sense of peace, which I think a lot of people can relate to. Getting away from society and just the craziness of our society. And I just love photography. So being able to just seeing all these, and again, like repeating a summit, but having a completely different experience based on weather and conditions, and being able to photograph and capture that is it's pretty amazing. The one downfall definitely for me with going solo is that I don't have anybody to share that experience with. So I could see this amazing, stunning thing, and there's been so many times where I'll actually yell like, oh my God, like, I get so excited and I'm like, I don't have anybody to share this with. So that definitely can be a downside, but
well, here's the great thing about it. With your photography, you do, because people are sharing in that experience through your eyes, through your photography.
Right. Yes. And that's what I'm hoping that I can capture that feeling that I get when I see what I see. So Yeah.
So in the intro, we talked about your photography being displayed in some art shows, and then also it sounds like you've sold some of your photography. Can you talk a little bit about that and what some of those shows were, and how do you typically sell your photography?
Yeah, so I had a couple shows in Tacoma. The A couple clients who I work with they like to display art at their office, and so they graciously allowed me to have a couple shows there. And so that was fantastic. And yeah, just kind of different like fairs and stuff like that. I would have booths set up. I don't do that quite much anymore. But I do have a website too, and people just can order off of there.
Okay.
But yeah, I someday I would like to maybe teach some workshops too, and kind of get others out there and help them with their photography.
How did you get in? How'd you get into photography?
Um, well, that's a good question. I think actually, well, the main thing was, I don't know if you've heard of Art Wolf.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
He when I first moved out here in 2001, I went to the REI downtown Seattle, and at the time he had a bunch of his work displayed in there, and I saw it and I was just absolutely floored. It was
Yeah,
just
I was too.
amazing.
Whenever I'd see his stuff, it was like, man, amazing.
Oh, just unreal. And so I was like, I have to do that. I have to do that someday. That was my dream. And so eventually, as I could afford it, I got a camera and just slowly got lenses. And I, for the most part, just kind of taught myself and just fell in love with it. So, and actually got to meet Art a couple times.
Oh,
So
how
that's
fun
pretty
was
cool.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty great. Went to one of his lectures and then a book signing too. I got to meet him. So he's a pretty fun guy.
When you go out, do you normally take do you always take your camera equipment, or do you just shoot with your cell phone?
It depends. It depends on where I'm going. If it's like an I-90 hike, no, I'll just take my cell phone. But I would say about 80% of the time I'll take my camera, and sometimes an additional lens. Depends on how much I want to carry. But
Yeah.
uh yeah, I'll usually have it with me.
Okay.
And there are times, a lot of times I've done mailbox and I regret not having my camera, because even though it's mailbox, I've got this, you can get some gorgeous shots up there.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
There's some great
yeah.
you get great sunsets all up and down the I-90 corridor.
Oh, it's
And
amazing.
I see people post stuff, in Peak Baggers or elsewhere, and I'll be like, good God, look at that. And I know they just took it with their phone and
Right.
no filter or nothing. And I'm like, and I got some pretty good scenes on my camera or on my phone also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have, in terms of climbing and peak bagging, do you have a mentor? You mentioned your father, obviously. Are there others that you would say really helped you along the way and were really influential in your approach to climbing in the mountains, or that you look up to?
Well, I think my friend Brenda is who really kind of started me out on this journey. She's really done a lot of stuff and has really been into peak bagging for a long time. And so she kind of showed me the ropes at first of just kind of how to put on the crampons and just all those kind of things, which I just absolutely appreciate. And I've had other friends kind of help me with more the technical aspect of things, roping up and those kind of things. A lot of it too, though, I don't get too caught up in professional climbers and that kind of thing. Yes, it's amazing what people out there do, but I just kind of think we're all on our own journey, and
Mhm.
I just kind of want to stay on my journey and not try to be like somebody else or do what that person is doing. I just want to do what I feel is best for me rather
Yeah.
than trying to idolize somebody and
Chase or follow someone else.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
like, without saying it was a piece of advice, it sounds like pretty good advice though from you.
Right, right, right,
Uh,
right. Yeah.
so you're a personal trainer, so that certainly helps you stay fit when you're not in the mountains. But is there any other exercise regimens or routines that you follow that you really stand behind and say, this is, kind of my go-to to help me stay in shape, when I'm not in the mountains?
Yeah, definitely lifting weights, I think is huge. And I think anybody who climbs hikes should lift weights because it's just so important to keep all those muscles strong and balanced. So yes, I'm lifting weights 4 days a week, and then I indoor climb too, usually twice a week in the wintertime, usually.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of the majority of it. I have kind of some chronic injury stuff that has been going on for 25 years. And I've been going to a lot of physical therapy off and on over the years. And that has gotten very, very frustrating. And so just trying to kind of deal with that and get through kind of the ups and downs of, okay, I can't do what I want to do, and then still trying to stay in shape. And it can be challenging at times.
Yeah. 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 The injuries, unfortunately, it is a part of peak bagging and mountaineering for sure. Everybody gets injured eventually. Some seems like I'm injured all the time anymore, but that might have to do more with age than anything. Like I'm barely able to squeeze in a few hikes or climbs before I'm injured again. Yeah, so I know that frustration firsthand. So what a related question to that is about nutrition and nutrition advice. Do you have any pre-climb rituals or rituals while you're out on the trail? Like these are my go-to that I have to have every time I'm out climbing. And then what about for recovery?
Not really. As far as pre-climbs, I don't really do anything different. And when I'm out there, I usually just kind of take the same kind of things. I mean, nothing, like protein bars and like all that kind of stuff, but nothing really special as far as, okay, I always have to have this, or and then with recovery, not really. I just kind of eat what I want.
You're fortunate then.
Yeah. I always have dessert, so.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have a summit favorite? Like when you get on the summit, you always have a peanut butter sandwich or something like that.
I used to do that. That was it. I always used to have a peanut butter sandwich. I don't really do that anymore. But yeah, I always make sure I like to have sit and have my snack and relax a little bit on the summit. So yeah.
I have a friend who, and he only will do this on, he says, difficult climbs. He'll bring a quarter pounder with cheese. I don't know how you eat a quarter pounder with cheese that's been in your backpack for hours and is cold, but he swears by him. He loves them.
I love that.
That's his summit snack. I'm not going to give it a try yet. I'm not quite ready to go there. How did you find out about P&W Peak Baggers? Did somebody introduce you, or you just kind of searching around and found the Facebook group, or?
Yeah, actually what happened was I was this is a few years ago. I was on Mount Si and had lost one of my micro spikes, and I mentioned it to somebody, and they're like, oh yeah, are you on P&W Peak Baggers? You can go on there and just maybe post or see if anybody's found it. And I'm like, wait, what is that? So that's how I found it. So I got on Facebook and I was like, oh, okay.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how many, of course, now we have a chat where it's like a lost and found chat where people post that up. But before that, I was just always shocked how many people would post about losing things and how frequently they would find them. It would just blow my mind, like, a crampon or a camera or a phone or, anything. And then magically they get connected to somebody and they find their lost item. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yes.
What do you like most about being in the group?
Oh gosh, I definitely like trip reports. And because I'm always kind of trying to find, okay, what's something different? And just what conditions are like out there, especially this time of year where it's like, where's the snow level? And yeah, so it's great. I think definitely just finding different peaks and just different ideas is really helpful for me.
Yeah. Um, did you feel as a female joining the group or just getting into mountaineering that there was resistance towards you as a female and as a climber? Or did you feel comfortable and especially when you're a female solo hiker climber,
Mhm.
a lot of people feel like they have to give you advice about being safe. And I hear this from my friends all the time, like nobody ever says that to a man. Why are they telling me all of this advice? And, did you feel that?
Actually, no, not at all.
Okay,
It's been very welcoming, which has been fantastic.
great.
Um, yeah, really the only thing I just the only thing I get is gripe from my friends and clients who really don't climb much. I can't believe you're going solo. Don't go solo. I mean, it's just, but
Aren't you afraid of bears?
oh my gosh, I get that all the time. Oh,
Right.
all the time. I'm like, are you kidding? I see one and I get so ecstatic and I get my
Right.
camera out.
You end up chasing them down instead of running away from them.
Right, exactly. So, no, actually, and it's been surprising, but it's been very welcoming. I haven't had any issues, so it's been great.
Yeah, good. I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
feel weird even asking that question. Being a male, I don't know. I don't know how to ask that question and not
yeah.
it not be awkward for me to ask. And so I always like, okay, I know I should ask this question, but I don't know how to ask it. I know I'm going to come across like a dumbass the second I ask the question, but I always do, because I think people are interested in the perspective. Because it has been such a male dominated sport and environment for so many years, and there's a lot of work to be done. There's no doubt there's a lot of work to be done. There are lots of women who are super frustrated about kind of feeling like it's a boys club too often and getting advice that they didn't ask for from men. And so it's good to hear your perspective on that, and I'm glad that you have felt welcomed and not threatened or uncomfortable
Great,
in any way.
great. Yeah, and I know there are other women who have had issues, and so I don't want to just say, oh, it's all well and
It's
good,
just your
but
personal experience. Yeah.
it's just been my own experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So Kelly, what you talked about photography, you talked about gardening. Obviously, you're raising two young ladies. Takes a lot of your time. Is there any other hobbies, anything else that you do? And is the gardening sort of your other place of solitude? Like, I got to get out of the house for a few minutes. I'm going to go work in the yard.
Yeah, that's definitely it. Oh yes, that's where I go hide.
Right.
Yes. No, that's probably all of those things take up all of my time. So, yeah, that's definitely the majority of if I'm not in the mountains and not working and not with my kids, then I'll definitely be out in the
You're
garden.
normally a weekday climber, right? Most of the
So,
time.
I have Wednesdays off, so I'll go Wednesdays and then weekends. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
try to get out twice a week if I can.
Yeah.
My body
Nice.
will let me, but yeah.
Yeah. So just a couple of I'm kind of getting towards the end here. What parting pieces of wisdom or advice you gave some great advice earlier about not chasing others and trying to do what other people are doing, just do your thing. What other pieces of advice would you give somebody who's just getting started?
Oh gosh. Oh gosh, that's a good question. Well, one of the major things that it's a safety thing is to get one of those inReach, the inReach minis. I swear by that thing. I can always, if I need to message anybody, I can message when there's no cell service.
My
And just
wife was so happy when I finally got one
oh,
of those where she
they're
could just track me
fantastic.
and not have to worry about where I was. And I'm pretty
Exactly.
good at messaging, throughout the trips, and always, shoot her a note when I get to the top so she knows I'm
Yeah.
there safely. So yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely have one of those. Um, Gosh, yeah, I would just say be patient with yourself and again, just follow your own journey. Don't feel like you have to chase what other people are doing and do whatever makes you happy. If you don't feel comfortable scrambling and don't have any desire in it, don't do it. It's just kind of do what makes you happy.
Yeah. That is
So,
that is a risk, honestly, with peak baggers, chasing list too
yeah.
often, that the list becomes more important than often what you're out there trying to do in the first place. So yeah, that's great advice.
Well, yeah, and I went through a period this spring, early summer where I was completely burnt out. I did not want to go. I went out anyway because I had my darn list. But I really I I was burnt out. I was so sick of chasing this list and I have to do this, I have to do that, and I was doing it for the wrong reason. I wasn't getting the joy out of it anymore. It was more just I have to get this peak, I have to get this peak, and it was stressful.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just kind of stepped back and kind of looked at, okay, why am I doing this? And I purposefully did not do some on my list, just to remind myself of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Nice little reset. Sounds like it did you good.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
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 So you said you have a website. Where
Uh-huh.
what's your website?
It's kellyselzler.com. No, sorry, kellyselzlerphotography.com. So
Okay.
it's just my name and then photography.com. And then
Where else
yes,
can
that's the
people
website.
follow you? Obviously, you're on Facebook, so they can
Yep.
connect with you there through the group. Or are you on any other social media or any other platforms that
Oh
you?
yeah, I'm on Instagram too. And again, it's just my name, Kelly Selzler, and you can find me on there. So yeah.
And then when you do start posting on peakbagger.com, we'll look for you there also.
I'll try to get more than one.
Yeah. Well, hey, Kelly, it's been fun. I hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah, thank you. It's
I,
been
I,
great.
uh, Kelly and I were talking beforehand. I'm actually doing this from Los Cabos. That's why it looks a little bit different behind me than normal. I'm not.
Kind of jealous.
Yeah, I was saying nobody feels sorry for me being in Cabo. That's for sure. So I'm glad this worked out for your schedule and for mine. It's been fun talking to you. And obviously, love what you're doing. Love the post and your commitment and support for the group. So thank you.
You.
And those of you who are listening to us or watching us, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Make sure that if you are watching on YouTube, that you hit that little subscribe button, and there's a little notification bell up there that you can click on. That way you get notified anytime that we add a new episode. If you're following us on Spotify or Apple or Podcast Addict or any of the other podcast services, make sure you follow so that you do get the latest updates. And we have a website, pnwpeakbaggers.com. We post up some content on there that's a little bit different than you'll find in any of the other social media locations. We've posted these videos also there. We've got some really cool pictures from members throughout the group. We do have our store where we sell merchandise. I always have to put the plug in. So yeah, check out our website. And Kelly, thanks again. Thanks everybody for listening, and hope to see you out in the mountains.